All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome to BMGT 443 Equity Analysis. My name is Professor Joe Perfetti, Professor Perfetti to you, for the fall 2023 semester. Today is Monday, August 28th. This is section 401, 12:30 p.m. section. This class is being recorded to be later posted on YouTube. So what's happened is I've been teaching this class now for 16 years, and over time, people have asked me to record the class whenever they weren't here so they could actually not miss anything. But then as I was doing that, the people that were here are like, we want to have access to that video too. So starting a few years ago, I just record every class. Basically, I post them on a YouTube channel, my Joe Perfetti YouTube channel, because the software that the university uses for recorded lectures sucks and it's hard to use, so I don't even want to use it. So we're going to use YouTube, which seems to work well and is accessible pretty much anywhere. So throughout the classes, I'll pick one of the four sections. Today, I am picking this section to record. Later that day, I'll post it on YouTube, and again, it's available to all. Okay? That's just something we'll do for every class that I'm here for throughout the semester. So FYI. So before we get into the content today and talk about the syllabus, I just wanted to ask a general question to the group. All of you are either finance or accounting majors, juniors or seniors. So from that perspective, what is the difference between accounting and finance? So you've had both types of classes. This is more of a finance course than an accounting course, but what's the difference between finance and accounting from your perspective? Anybody want to try to answer that? Yeah.
Accounting's more about like reporting and finding historical trends, whereas finance is more like current and future valuations.
I couldn't have said any better myself. Usually we have to kind of jump around for a few answers to get to it, but if you didn't hear him, what he said is that, and I'll paraphrase, that accounting is more about historical trends, basically the past, and finance is about the future. And that's probably the biggest and most important thing you need to understand about this class, is this class is going to be focused much more about the future, okay? So for example, it took 18 months off to become the chief financial officer of a subsidiary of Blue Shield of California. Kind of a weird story of how I got the job. But when I was running that subsidiary as a CFO, I had a head of FP&A, financial planning and analysis, and I had a controller, all right? And basically, my controller, I used to call her my chief scorekeeper. She hated that title, right? But that's basically what accounting was. It's all about keeping score. What happened last month? What happened last quarter? What happened last year? And don't get me wrong, we like to keep score. We like to look at the past, all right? But what I'll tell you is what was much more important is not what happened last month, but what's going to happen next month, okay? That was the domain of FP&A, financial planning and analysis, because then they were dealing with the future. Remember, a company is worth the sum of its future cash flows, not its historical cash flows. And the past doesn't always repeat itself. So that's one of the dangers of looking backwards. And what I like to say is you can't drive a car, look in the rearview mirror, okay? Because that's the problem with accounting, okay? Another example is that in sports, my baseball team is the Atlanta Braves, okay? I can tell you that they lost yesterday to the San Francisco Giants. I can tell you the score of that game. I can tell you that they still have, I think, the best record in baseball, all right? But I can tell you that they're in a division lead. They've won like 80 games, right? I can tell you how many wins and losses over the last 10 they've had. I can tell you their best player, Ronald Acuna Jr. I can tell you his stats, okay, and everything else. But you know what? The Atlanta Braves have a game tonight against the Colorado Rockies. Who's going to win that game? See, that's finance, right? So finance, you got to go play that game. I can tell you who I think is going to win, but I don't know who's going to win with certainty today, which means we deal with risk. Anytime you deal with risk, you deal with uncertainty, which is one of the key things we're going to be talking about and applying in this class today, right? So what I'm going to tell you is understanding the future is just as important, if not more important, when we talk about valuation. And this class is going to be a lot about valuation, okay? So let me give you a real-world example of how this would apply, all right? So one of the more recent trillion-dollar companies is called Nvidia. Why is Nvidia now worth $1 trillion? What's going on that makes Nvidia worth $1 trillion? And I'll start with this. Here's some data. Okay, so if I look up Nvidia today, and I look at their historical statements, including 2022, which they reported in January 23. Last year, they had almost $27 billion in revenue, it's actual, $8 billion of EBITDA, and $6 billion in net income. And that company is worth $1 trillion. Do a price to earnings multiple. $1 trillion divided by $6 billion, that's a PE of like 300. How could this company be worth so much? Yep.
Because they look up the AI industry and people are expecting AI to grow exponentially in the future.
So AI is expected to grow exponentially, but how is Nvidia tied to that?
Because Nvidia is producing chips that help AI company to do their algorithms and stuff.
All right, so what he said is really, really important. So the first thing is AI is exploding as a pie. The market is exploding. And the chips used to create the generative AI that we all want to use, ChatGPT, et cetera, are being powered by Nvidia. That what we found is that technically their chips work better than Intel's or others in actually processing what needs to be done for the data, and they're really the only game in town for this type of chip right now. So Nvidia is in this giant market that's growing really fast, and they kind of are in a unique position of having the chip that everybody wants that nobody else really has right now, okay? By the way, that's called EIC. And that's actually one of the most important things we're going to do as one of the 4 sections of this class. 50% of the performance for any company is that external market. And we need to understand the external market and the company's relation to it to understanding how that they're going to perform. It's a really good example of why you do it. Because if you're sitting there looking historically at Nvidia, like many students would, in your Yahoo Finance, you're looking at these numbers and you're like, this doesn't make sense. Yes, I understand that AI is going to be big, but how can this company today be worth $1 trillion with that data? Okay? And the answer is, let me show you a view of the future. This is a real-time view of what Wall Street expects of Nvidia for the next 4 years. This first column is actual data, and this is the next 4 years worth of forecast data. Last year, Nvidia had revenue of almost $27 billion. By 2027, it's expected to grow to $103 billion. Last year, they had profit, net income, of $8.3 billion. By 2027, it's expected to grow to $49 billion in just that 1 year of net income. People are not valuing Nvidia on what they did, they're valuing Nvidia on what they're expected to do. And the reason why they're growing so fast and making so much money is this is a forecast by segments of Nvidia's business. The data center segment, which is $15 billion, think Amazon Web Services, think Microsoft Azure, the cloud, Google Cloud, et cetera. That was $15 billion worth of sales of their chips to those cloud providers last year. The cloud business for Nvidia is going to be $89.7 billion of revenue for 1 year by 2027. So let's link to his comment. Basically, AI is exploding. The Nvidia chips help AI. The cloud, the data centers where AI is being processed, all these data centers which are exploding are buying Nvidia's chips. They're going to buy $90 billion a year worth of Nvidia's chips starting in 2027. And Nvidia is going to make a huge profit margin on that. That's why people are excited about Nvidia. That's why they are a $1 trillion company. Okay? And by the way, when Nvidia was reporting its results, every 3 months we have a check-in. How are you doing against these results that we are predicting? When Nvidia's reported results came in for the latest quarter last week, in the quarter that was just reported that ended July 31st, the market expected $11 billion worth of chip sales, total chip sales just for that 3-month period. That was what the market was expecting. Nvidia reported $13.5 billion. So even in the short term, they have been surging past these very optimistic estimates because the cloud is growing so fast for AI and they are the chip for the cloud. And we can see a direct link to their valuation. And I'm telling you, in previous finance classes, this is not what you studied. Okay? You look backwards at historical statements and you're trying to scratch your pencils and figure out how could you connect A to B with this value, and you wouldn't be able to do it. And most people out there looking at systems like Yahoo Finance and look backwards can't do that. We have to deal with the future. And by the way, there's uncertainty in this future. I'll give you another example. Has anybody heard of a company called AbbVie? AbbVie, until last year, had the best-selling drug in the world. Does anybody know what that drug was? Sold by AbbVie. It was called Humira. Humira was AbbVie's best-selling drug. It was, at the time, the best-selling drug in the world. It was an anti-inflammatory. A lot of people take it. Helps a lot of people. Okay? So, here's the point. This is AbbVie. This is a forecast of AbbVie sales by drug. Last year's actual, next 4 years forecast. Humira is the first drug. Last year, Humira sold $21 billion worth of sales for just that drug. Out of AbbVie's $58 total billion in revenue, Humira was $21 billion. Until last year, best-selling drug in the world. This year, Humira sales are expected to fall to $14 billion. By 2026, $5.8 billion. In the next 4 years, that drug is going to lose 70% of its sales. Do you think the market cares about the $21 billion that AbbVie sold of Humira last year? Or do you think they're more concerned about the $5.8 billion they're going to sell in 3 years and how they're going to replace it? That is much more concerning to AbbVie's value. So my question to you is why? What's causing that? What's causing AbbVie's sales of Humira to drop so dramatically? What changed? Yes, sir. The patent on it, patents are monopolies. They had a monopoly on this drug. The patent clearly expired. And now that the patent has expired, usually when patent expires, competition shows up, prices plummet. That's Humira, right? In a way, it's good for the consumers because you're going to pay a whole lot less for Humira. It's bad financially for AbbVie because you're going to make a heck of a lot less money for the drug. So I'm just telling you, when we look at a company like AbbVie, it's not what they did. It's what they're expected to do. When we look at Nvidia, it's not what they did. It's what they're expected to do. Right? And so this is going to be a very important perspective when we look at company values. And by the way, there's risk in this. Things can change, okay? And that's what's going to be important as well. So what they're going to track not is Humira, but the market's going to come down here and look at the early stage pipeline for their drugs, which is right here. That's everything in clinical trials. 1, 2, 3, stage 4, okay? Because pharmaceutical companies have to go through clinical trials before their drugs are allowed to be released. Because they go through clinical trials, this data is public. So the analysts know what's in their pipeline. So that's the drugs, and that's the sales by drug in their pipeline for the next 4 years. None of this adds up to $20 billion. So when you look at all the sales that are being lost, they're not replacing it with their pipeline, not anytime soon. So that's the concern of a company like AbbVie. This is when somebody like JP Morgan says, aha, let's go talk to them about the acquisition that's going to help fill that gap. Right? This is when companies start buying pipeline because they can't build the pipeline fast enough to replace that drug. One of the companies that I work with is called Merck. You guys heard of Merck before? Okay. So here's what's interesting about Merck. Merck now has the best-selling drug in the world. It's a drug called Keytruda. Last year, Keytruda was $20.9 billion in sales. By 2026, it's expected to be $32 billion in sales for just that one drug. Now, I don't know if you're familiar with Keytruda, but Keytruda literally cures cancer, right? It's an immunotherapy that cures cancer. If you have lung cancer, 2/3 of the people that have lung cancer, Keytruda has no impact on. But for the 1/3 that it does have an impact on, it can not only cause remission, it can cause the cancer to go away. It is truly a miracle drug. And they're not just doing it for lung cancer, they're doing it for a whole bunch of other types of cancers. One treatment of Keytruda is $100,000. Okay? It's a very expensive cancer drug. Okay? But nonetheless, this is a very important future. And so Merck is not being valued on anything else than sales of Keytruda like AbbVie, under patent, we're the only game in town for this life-saving cancer drug that's very, very profitable. But you know what's interesting? You know what the market's asking Merck about? 2028. There's a lot of conversation today about Merck's 2028 financial results. Anybody want to guess why? You know what's going to happen in 2028? That's the year the patent for Keytruda expires. And you know what's going to happen to that $30 billion of sales in 2028? Just like AbbVie, it's going to go down dramatically. So there's two parts to valuing Merck, which is, hey, next 5 or 6 years, I mean, these are the golden years for Merck financially. They're going to make a killing. But then the market's quickly concerned to, all right, great, what are you going to do when Keytruda goes off patent? And we're 5 years out from that, but I still want to start having the conversation now because that's going to be important to your long-term value. And are you doing anything to actually help with that? Right? So again, questions about the future play a big role in valuation. Does that kind of make sense? Right. So, nice thing is, this cool tool that I'm showing all this data in is something that you are going to be using extensively this semester. It is called Bloomberg Professional. Right? It is the pro tool used on Wall Street. If you haven't used it before, it's because it doesn't have a lot of users because it's very expensive. This software costs $25,000 per user per year on a subscription basis for the base model. Add-on features, price goes up from there. Okay? Bloomberg has 340,000 users. You do the math, that's why Michael Bloomberg, who owns the company, is a billionaire. Okay? It is the standard on Wall Street. It is a trading tool. It's a news and information tool. Right? It's got information on stocks, real time, bonds, currencies, the Ponzi scheme known as crypto. All of that is in here. Okay? You will have access to this for a total cost of $0. It's part of being in this class. In this room, every one of these computers is a Bloomberg terminal. There are 32 of them. Okay? So basically, there is no other lab in the world for undergrads that gives them access to 32 Bloomberg terminals. It is a privilege to have this. Thank you, University of Maryland, for making that investment for you. Because if you go work on Wall Street, the very first thing, if you get a job at Morgan Stanley, is they're going to ask you to become Bloomberg certified. Because this is the software you're going to be working in every day. You will be Bloomberg certified by September 15th. If you're interviewing, you can put that on your resume. That will differentiate you from just about any undergrad in the entire country when you actually go through the process. So there's a couple of perks to doing this class. The other thing is I'm highlighting to you another important part of this class is we're not going to be talking about Harvard Business School case studies. We're not going to be talking about Southwest Airlines in 2003. We're not going to talk about historical data in a textbook that they figured out one company makes this example work perfectly. That's not this class. We're dealing with the real world. This is as real as it gets. I have listed assignments with companies that are blank right now because I don't even know what they're going to be. I'm going to pull them ripped from the headlines and we're going to be doing real world companies in real time. That's the way we're going to roll in this class, right? So it's going to be messy. Sometimes our frameworks will make sense. Sometimes they won't make sense. But we're going to have to try and make sense of the things that don't make sense, and you're doing it for a grade, right? But if nothing else, it's going to apply everything you've done in a real world setting. That's the advantage of this class. However, it's going to require a lot of work, okay? This class is a cumulative class, which means every week builds on the previous week. So every week, there's at least one homework assignment. You have to do the homework assignments, otherwise you can't pass this class because you're going to be clueless. You're going to have half your grade are going to be in 5 group projects. You have to participate in those 5 group projects because all 5 of those group projects will have mandatory peer reviews. And if your peers say, this person didn't show up, they didn't show up for group assignments, they didn't contribute to anything in putting together our presentation, I'll give you a 0. And if you don't participate in your group projects, you will get an F in this class. You will not fail. You will fail, and you will not graduate. And I am telling you in advance, it will happen to some of you. It's happened the last couple semesters. It's like people like, he's just full of crap. He's just making this up. He won't really fail me. Yes, I will, okay? And I will go through a committee when you complain. I will take calls from your angry parents because it's all about you. It's about the work that you put in for this class. Long ago, I was an undergrad. And my second semester senior year, I took a class at the University of Pennsylvania Wharton School, Ivy League institution, in Hitchcock, because it was a gut class. All we had to do was watch Hitchcock movies and talk about it for a grade. It was one of the easiest classes you could ever take. That's not this class. Okay? If you want that class, we are still in the drop ad period. Please drop this class. All right? Go take another one at the university. Maybe they got one at Hitchcock. Maybe they got one on some Chris Nolan or something like that. There's other classes out there for you. This is not your class. This class was originally scheduled to have 32 people in it because there's 32 terminals. There's 46. That's a math problem. Not everybody can use the terminals. So if you leave the room, it's not going to bother me. All right? So we're oversubscribed. Matter of fact, I got 4 sections that are oversubscribed. We're not supposed to have more than like 130 students. We have 180 signed up. So if a few of you leave, good. Okay? I'm not going to cry about that. It's better for the people that are left. If you stay, you're going to work hard. You're going to learn a lot. But that's the class. And you got to understand that I'm going to expect that. I'm going to treat you like an adult. And if you don't work hard and you don't put in the effort, as an adult, you're not going to pass this class. You're not going to get the grade that you want. And I'm going to be very transparent about it. And I'm not going to have any sympathy for you. Okay. So with that in mind, let's talk about the syllabus. So I posted it online last week. This is the syllabus. Click it here or off the main menu for the class. All right, there are 4 sections of this class. How they came up with the numbering order, I don't know. The 101 section is 11 a.m. The 401 section is 12:30 p.m. The 201 section is 2 p.m. And the 301 section is 3:30 p.m. Okay, that's just university logic. But in any event, you right now are the 12:30 section. The content's the same. It's just a lot of students. We had to break you up into 4 classes. All right. That is my email, perfetti@umd. That is my cell phone. That is my office upstairs in the finance lab, 4456 on the left-hand side. I'm almost never there. All right. But the people that will be there, office hours by appointment with me, are 4 TAs. These are undergraduate TAs who took this class last semester. Okay. I got special consideration with my TAs because you're not allowed to have undergraduate TAs for undergraduate classes. The school mandates MBAs to be your TAs. But the problem is if an MBA were your TA, they'd be clueless, they'd be beyond ability to help you. They would have no idea what's going on in the class. So what the school allows me to do is take former students who did really well, they got an A or better, and they understand the content, those are your TAs. The TAs provide 2 important roles. They're going to do most of the grading, so they're very important to you. And the second thing is they're there to help. They're all going to have office hours. I'm going to have a meeting with them tomorrow. We'll pick office hours. The office hours will either be on Thursday or Friday. You can go to any of their office hours for assistance. Okay? However, one of the TAs is assigned to you for grading. That is Connor Catula. Okay? So he is your grading TA for Section 401. But again, you can go to any TA for help on any of the things that are going on in the class. That is his contact information. Once we settle up the office hours starting this week, I'll post the updates for their times here. Okay? So, the course objective. Basically, I'm going to train you to think like a sell-side analyst on Wall Street. And this class will have 4 sections to it. The first I introduced to you a few minutes ago. It's called EIC, Economy, Industry, Company. Half your performance of any company is the external market. I'm going to talk to you about how we understand external market conditions and how they impact companies. That's the first content area of the class. The second content area is we're going to get into historical analysis. Now, transparently, the past doesn't guarantee the future, but we still have to understand the past to start to forecast the future. So we'll talk about the historical analysis, and I'll talk to you a McKinsey-specific way of doing historical analysis that's explained in our textbook that is somewhat unique. The third section of this class is valuation. You will build an enterprise discounted cash flow model that is real-world valuing real-world companies this semester, tied to Bloomberg. The fourth section of this class is called multiples or comparables, comps, price earnings multiples, enterprise value to EBIT multiples, etc. We will talk about how those multiples are created, and we'll tie them back to the enterprise DCF because basically it's law of one price. There's one value for a company regardless of how we value it, And so therefore, it's just a different approach, and we'll sync our multiple analysis back to our enterprise DCF for companies, okay? So that's kind of the content at a very high level that we are going to be covering. You can read the course expectations yourselves, but I'll highlight a few things. First, I'm going to call this a hybrid class, okay? Most of the classes will be live in this room. However, a couple of things. One, you'll notice there are 32 terminals in this room. You will have to use these terminals to do many of your homework assignments. Because there's not enough terminals to go around, I will label some days as Bloomberg Lab days, which basically means I'm going to give class time, clear out the whole day, where you can come in, do the work for individual and or group assignments for homework assignments. Okay, so you'll have some Bloomberg Lab days. I will also tell you, it doesn't matter, but I was in the hospital last week for 5 days. All right, I'm going to have a couple of health things I have to deal with throughout the semester. From time to time, I may have to cancel a class. So if that happens, what will probably happen is I'll either record a video to play, or what I might do is I'll say I'm going to record the 11 a.m. section, all the other sections just watch it on Zoom. Okay, so again, those may occur from time to time. I'm just going to be straight up with you as we go through the class, but don't worry, you're not going to short shrift any of the content. All right, attendance is pretty much mandatory. All right. As I said, this class, if you aren't in here and you're not kind of keeping up with what we do, you're going to get lost. So if I like to show up in the first day, last day, and take the exams, that's not this, okay? And so every week builds on each other. And so what I found over time is the only way that works out is if you show up. Now, I can't force you to show up, right? You can spend your tuition any way you want. So here's the deal. Everybody in this class gets one unexcused absence. I will only take attendance when we're physically here. Okay, so Bloomberg Lab Day, there's no attendance for, but when I do attendance, I'll put a sign-in sheet. You'll sign your name on the sign-in sheet. Okay, you don't sign somebody else's name, it's an honor code violation. Okay, so basically we'll take the attendance. One unexcused absence throughout the semester. If you do that and you show up, you will opt out of the final exam. You won't have to take the final exam. If you don't do that, you will take the final exam. And I have found that over time that kind of works, because 80% of the students last semester opted out of the final exam. Okay? And I don't want to take it. You wouldn't want to take it. So it's your carrot to wanting to be here. Hopefully you also want to learn. All right. So the other thing is I'm going to treat you like an adult. All right? Which means a couple of things. One, I fully expect you to be prepared, meaning there's readings in the book. I expect you to do them. Okay? There's homework assignments. I expect you to be prepared with these. If you have questions, come to the class with them or go to TAs with them. All right? Show up. All right? If you don't, it's on you. It's not on us. It's your responsibility to do these things. So that plays into the late assignment policy in this class, and to some degree, the excuses for attendance, to get an excused absence. The policy in this class is this. Before deadlines, we are flexible. After deadlines, we are inflexible. For grading purposes, after a deadline, we will not grade a late assignment, full stop. You just get a 0 on it, we move on. I don't care, insert your reason here, you're getting a 0. No assignment after a deadline will be graded, period, exclamation point, right? Now, you're in the hospital, car wreck, death in the family, okay. But if it's just like, I was feeling kind of sick, or I had an interview and I was kind of busy, that's on you. We're not going to grade it. So you got a problem, talk to us before a deadline. Because that's going to be important, excuses that are excused are in writing. Nothing verbal will count. Okay, so excused absences, deadline extensions must be in writing. They can be given by either myself or one of the TAs. So Connor, your TA, can give you an extension. Connor, your TA, can excuse an absence. You don't have to deal with me, you can also deal with Connor. But one of the two of us better get an email, preferably both, and one of us coming back to you saying, yes, this is excused, or yes, you have an extension on the deadline, before the deadline. So for example, many of you are going to be interviewing for jobs. Professor Perfetti, I had a super day in New York on Wednesday of next week, and therefore I couldn't get to the assignment on time. Can I please have an extension? Send us email, we'll give you an extension of the assignment. We understand that these are important things you got to do as part of your academic life. We'll be accommodating. Let's say you go to the Super Day next Wednesday, you don't show up for class, you don't do homework 1, you come back the following week and you say, oh, Professor Perfetti, the reason I didn't do the assignment is because I was at my Super Day. I'm going to say, well, I hope you got the job because we're giving you a 0 on the assignment. And they're probably not going to like the grade that they're going to see this semester. Okay? We're not going to let you make it up. Don't care what your reason is. So I'm just telling you before assignments. So if you have an ADS accommodation, talk to us. We'll be happy to give you an accommodation for that. If you are in a sports team or you're traveling for a university-approved club, we'll generally give you the accommodation. Okay? So again, but you got to talk to us before the deadlines, not after the deadlines. The other thing is there's going to be some assignments that will have minimum word counts, 500 words, right? And the reason I do that is because when I didn't have minimum word counts, you guys would like write assignments in bullet points. Okay, and I can't grade bullet points. So you got to write words. So 500 word minimum assignments when I say it is. You turn in 497 words, you get a 0 in the assignment. There's no partial credit. You either meet the minimum or you don't. Some assignments will have screenshots. Turn in your screenshots to support your assignment. You don't turn in your screenshots, you get a 0 in the assignment. We won't grade it. Okay? There are minimum criteria for assignments. You must meet those minimum criteria. If you miss any of the minimum criteria, we don't grade it. You don't get to make it up. Don't care what your reason is. So pay attention to what you do and follow the rules and instructions that we give you in this class. Also, writing a lot of words does not get you credit in this class. I use this as an example when I talk to corporations. Okay, so you've given me good examples to senior leaders of what not to do. Okay, and what I'll tell them is this. I'll say, when my undergrads write a lot of words on an assignment, they get pissed off when I give them 0s on their assignment because they wrote 2,000 words, and how could they not get any credit for writing 2,000 words? All that effort they put in should give them some credit. And my answer to the undergrads is this. If you wrote 2,000 words, your expectation is that I, the professor, should search through those 2,000 words and find something that may be correct. That doesn't demonstrate to me that you know the answer to the question. Just throwing a lot of words at a question doesn't mean you know how to answer the question. The people that know the right answer to the question, answer the question. That is our grading principle in this class. If you do not answer questions right, I don't care how many words you write, you'll get a 0 on your assignment. Full stop. The other thing is, you will use numbers when you answer questions in this class. Failure to use numbers in a finance class will get 0 credit on any assignment, again, regardless of how many words you write. And I'll give you an example. Talking about EIC. Is Nvidia in an attractive industry? You could say yes. Well, there's a 50-50 probability chance that you got that right. That doesn't mean you know the answer. Okay? Matter of fact, you probably skated through most of your undergraduate career with professors who grade you that way. I do not. Right? In this class, you would have to say, Nvidia's ROIC last year was 19.8%. Their cost of capital was 10.1%. That created a 9.7% positive spread, and that is what made it, the industry, an attractive industry, and Nvidia having a competitive advantage in the industry. But the point is, you will use numbers referring to data in screenshots you submit to get credit in this class. Failure to do so in a group project or in a paper will not get credit. And again, when you're complaining to the TAs about this, about why they gave you a 0, I am backing them up because I'm going to tell them the same thing. You're going to get a 0. Okay? So just being really clear with you about expectations as we start this class. Still time to drop. Yes, sir.
Are a lot of those screenshots going to be from Bloomberg, and then I know you said we'd be using them a lot for the
Yes, you will.
assignment.
Many assignments require screenshots from Bloomberg.
Like each week, are you going to be giving us time?
Yes.
For this class?
Correct. And sometimes you'll have to come to the Bloomberg lab if you can't do it during class over the weekend or Thursday, Friday to get those screenshots to do the assignments.
So there are outside hours we can come in and work on this?
When the lab is available. Generally, the lab is available from 8 to 5, Monday through Friday. Now, they claim it's technically open on weekends, but I've had students come here at 10 o'clock on a Saturday, and no one's here to let you in. Now, you can do it in this lab. There's also a lab downstairs. I think they just moved it, but there's some terminals in that lab open to the entire university. Okay, you can also do it there as well in this lab. But what you have to do is you have to treat this lab like Fight Club. And the first rule of Fight Club is you don't talk about Fight Club. So you're gonna get really excited about these Bloomberg terminals and all the wonderful things you can do with it. Don't spread the word, okay? Because if the university starts filling this lab up, you won't be able to use these terminals to do your assignments. And I won't care. I'll still give you a 0 for not getting it done. I don't care if all your friends are in here doing the work and you can't. So I'm just telling you, don't drag all your friends to this lab and say, oh, look at this cool tool. You should sign up for it too. They should be in this class. Okay, I know that the university's probably not happy that I'm saying that, and this is on YouTube, but it is in your interest to basically not let everybody know that this lab exists. They can use the lab downstairs as far as I'm concerned. All right, so a couple of other things. Half your grade are group projects. That's 50%. There are 5 group projects, 10% of your grade for each of those 5 group projects. Okay, the first one starts next week. Okay? You will get a group grade for those group projects, subject to a mandatory peer review on every group project. So in every group project, you will rate all of your peers 0 to 100% on their effort at participating in the project. And you'll get a group grade subject to that peer review. So if your peers say, again, he missed half of our team meetings, didn't really contribute any content, I give them a 50%, your group might get 10 points on the group project, you'll get 5. And oh, by the way, you won't be able to opt out of the final exam anymore. So participate in the group projects. Very, very important that you do that. The first group project is going to be called the Bloomberg Trading Challenge. So what Bloomberg does is across universities, they have a trading challenge using their terminal where you could trade real world stocks with a certain amount of money, and the team that gets the highest portfolio across all the universities, quote unquote, wins. Because we have one of the largest licenses in the world for Bloomberg, they have given us the ability in this class to run our own tournaments. Those are called the Bloomberg Trading Challenge. The first one starts next week. Your class will be divided into teams. Each team next week will be given $1 million, hypothetical dollars. You will trade for 6 weeks. At the end of the 6 weeks, you will be scored on portfolio value. The team with the highest portfolio value gets an A. The team with the lowest portfolio gets a value for an F. Everybody else in between. It is purely scored competitively. That is 10% of your semester grade. It will be broken into 2 6-week sprints. We'll start one next week. We'll grade you and score you after 6 weeks. We'll reset everybody back to $1 million, and then you'll trade again for 6 more weeks. It is very real world, not only in how you're graded, but applying the things directly in this class to the companies that you're evaluating. Yes, sir. There's what? There's 1 trading competition for each half of the semester. It's 5% of your grade the first half of the semester, 5% of your grade the second half of the semester. Relative performance to the people in your room, in this classroom. That's one of the 5 group projects split in half. I used to make it over the entire semester, but after a few weeks, a couple of teams were so hopelessly out of it, they lost so much money with no chance to come back, that I decided to have mercy and split it into 2 trading challenges. So you completely F up in the first half of the semester, you can get reset as a team and start again fresh for the second half of the semester, okay? But it's still relative performance. Now, this is why teams become important. You will trade through the software. The only way to trade through the software is to be in this room using the software. You have 1 person on your team, which we'll call the Bloomberg captain, which will trade on behalf of your entire team. They're the ones that are trade. If they don't trade, things don't happen. So let's say you did buy Nvidia and something really bad comes out about them and their stock collapses. If they don't come in and sell Nvidia, like, it could destroy your portfolio. So whoever you make your trading captain to trade on behalf of the team should be a very responsible person. The other thing is, and I've seen this happen as well, I've seen trading captains go rogue and they just start trading. And then they lose a huge amount of money and completely screw their team. I will not be able to undo those trades. So that person will have a lot of power on behalf of your team. The third thing is the trading captain can't do all the work. Because if the captain does all the work, and in the peer reviews it's like, I was the one who did all the work and nobody helped me, then they will get the grade for the trading challenge you will get a 0 for the trading challenge. You will also not be able to opt out of the final exam. So whether you're making the enters to Bloomberg or not, you still have to participate in coming up with the portfolio decisions. Question over here, saw you. Okay, any questions about that? We'll get more detail about this in Wednesday's class, once we start building the groups. Okay? Now, that is my YouTube channel, which is where the YouTube videos will be posted. The textbook is the 7th edition of Valuation. None of the previous editions will work. The 7th edition was completely rewritten. So if you have the 6th or earlier version, you wasted your money. You need the 7th edition. Any of the 7th editions will work, including the ebooks. It is my understanding that the library, because we've run this class now for a number of years, has free copies of the ebook and the textbook, which you can check out for the semester. Now, it's a limited amount, and I don't know how quickly they go out, but that's another opportunity. Otherwise, the book is about $65. Okay? That's the textbook that you will need. All right? Groups, again, we'll put you into groups on Wednesday. First project is the Trading Challenge. Bloomberg Professional, that software that I used at the beginning of the class, you will become certified by September 15th in using that software. It's a requirement of the class because you're going to be using it very extensively. And it's got a steep learning curve, but you're going to have a pretty good idea of how to use it by the end of the semester, right? And much sooner than that. So the grading for the semester is broken out into 100 total points. I want to be as clear as possible about this. Your grade on any individual assignment does not matter. What I do is I take the points from all the assignments across the semester and add them up to get your semester grade. So to get an A in this class, you need 93 points across all of these assignments, individual, group exams, okay? So let's just say you get 0 out of 2 points on a homework assignment. You could still get 98 points across all the other assignments. Don't freak out. It won't just fail you for the semester, okay? It means you can't take the final, you'll have to take the final exam, so there's consequences to that, but nonetheless, it's points across the semester. That will cause problems with ELMS. Very quickly, ELMS was not set up to handle a class that has more than 100 points available. This class will have more than 100 points available by the end of the semester, so therefore ELMS will be misleading to your grade, okay? What I mean by that is that there's probably gonna be 3 or 4 points of extra credit that will be added through extra credit assignments throughout the semester. So at the end of the semester, let's say there's 104 total points available in the class. 90 out of 104 is an A minus. Now what ELMS will do is they'll say 90 divided by 104 is a B, okay? But that's not the way I grade. I ignore ELMS. I just literally add up the points in ELMS for all of your assignments, and that equals your grade. 93 total points is an A, 90 points is an A minus, 87 B plus, etc. The only one that is quirky is the potential A plus. Because I add extra points, 97 is not an A plus. A plus in this class is probably gonna be something like 101, okay? But nonetheless, that applies to very few people. You wanna get an A in the class, you're probably gonna need at least 90 points or better to get an A minus or better. That's what you should be shooting for. Anything below a 70, you will fail this class. You will not be able to graduate, okay? Because any D or lower is failing. Because I offer 2 opportunities for extra credit, I do not round. If you finish this class with 69.5 points, you will fail this class. You will not be able to graduate, and I will not be able to do anything about that for you, no matter how much you complain, no matter how much your parents complain, and no matter how many committees you go through in the university to complain about that. You earn the grade in this class that you get. I do not curve, I do not round. If you still don't like this, drop the class, okay? So, a couple things though that help you in this process. One is there will be some extra credit. So you screw up on a couple assignments, you can take extra credit assignments to make up some points. That's going to be available to you. The other opportunity is listed here on the syllabus and here on the assignments. It is called, where did I put it? Oh, here it is. Assignment replacement. At any point between now and December 3rd, you can write a 500-word minimum paper called the assignment replacement. And at the end of the semester, we will replace any individual assignment with a perfect score as if you did it, even if you missed it. So let's just say one of our valuation assignments is 4 points. It's a lot of work. You don't feel like doing it that week, you don't turn it in. You get 0 out of 4 points. Okay? Now, by doing that, you also don't get to opt out of the final exam, because if you miss any individual assignment, you won't be able to opt out of the final exam. You write the assignment replacement paper. We will give you 4 points for that missed assignment. We will treat it as if you turned it in and didn't miss the deadline, and you'll still then be able to opt out of the final exam. Okay? Now, as far as the opt-out criteria for the final exam, which is listed in the syllabus, one of the criteria is you have to get at least 50% credit on all your individual assignments. So let's say there's a 2-point assignment that you get a 0.5 on. Okay? That kills your ability to opt out of the final exam. Do the assignment replacement. We'll give you a 2 on that assignment, then you could still potentially opt out of the final exam. You can choose any time between now and the end of the semester to write that paper. The TAs will apply that opt-out criteria the week of December 3rd. Okay? So you don't have to do it until then, and we'll do it during then, but that's always an option in your back pocket this semester. So you have 2 ways to improve your grade. Everybody's going to have trouble. One is the assignment replacement. We'll replace one individual assignment. 2 is there will be individual extra credits that will be available later in the semester that will add points if you seem to have some trouble with that. Yes, sir.
So since it's just like a right or wrong answer for all these, is it either you just get like a 0 or you get a 100,
No.
or is it?
Now, these assignments will be graded. You might get a 1.75 out of 2. Okay? And so, again, it depends on how wrong or right your answer is, because you got to have right answers to get full credit. Okay? But that's the homeworks, which are listed on here, and you'll notice 1 a week for the next 11 weeks. And then what will happen is there'll be a homework 12 the week before Thanksgiving. That'll be an extra credit assignment. There'll be a homework 13 probably the week of Thanksgiving or the first week of December. That'll be a second extra credit assignment. That'll just add points to the system, and that's a benefit to you near the end of the semester. Okay? Question or just scratching? Yes? Okay. All right. So last but not least about the syllabus. Honor code. Please follow the honor code. I don't want to go in front of the honor council. It's bad for you, bad for the university, bad for your parents. Don't do it. It's not worth it in here. Course assistance website prohibition. That's a university policy. You can't use like Course Hero or those previous semester websites. That would be an honor code violation. So you can't do that. But this semester, the university is now trying to grapple with ChatGPT. So here's my perspective on ChatGPT. First, it's not going to help you that much for the type of content that we do in this class because it's so real world and ChatGPT is delayed. But that being said, even if you use ChatGPT, the important point is plagiarism is unacceptable. So use an AI chatbot, you better quote it, and you better source it. Anything that is not quoted, that is not sourced, that shows up in any of your papers will be sent to the Honor Council for plagiarism. And when you go to the Honor Council for plagiarism, you will lose, right? Because it's real easy to prove plagiarism in this university. Because if you have a whole section of your paper that's an exact match to something else, and it's not quoted and it's not bibliography, it's just a question of what the penalty is, and whether they're going to give you an XF or maybe a less penalty if you beg and plead. But I've had several students that have gotten XFs for plagiarism. Don't be that student. Okay? It's just not worth it. So therefore, because we're dealing with the real world, and you will not know answers to real world stuff, and you will have to use other sources for the real world, quote it. Bibliography. It's perfectly okay to do that. Okay? But if you don't do that, if this is an academic institution, very much frowned upon. Okay? Now, talked about the late assignment policy, pretty straightforward. At the end of the semester, please do a course evaluation. Got any special needs, please talk to us. Those are the opt-out policies for the final exam. But basically, the way it works is to opt out of the final exam, you can't have more than one unexcused absence when I take attendance. You can't have any individual homework assignment with less than a 50% grade. You can't have less than a 60% grade on your midterm exam. You can't be sent to the Honor Council. You can't be peer reviewed on a group project. If you meet all those criteria, you can opt out of the final exam. We will tell you whether you can opt out of the final exam on Friday, December 8th. You don't tell us, we tell you. Okay? We'll apply the criteria the last week of class because Wednesday, December 6th is the last group project. So we won't know your ability to opt out until that has been assessed. Well, by me, not only for a grade, but by your peers for a peer review. Okay? Assuming that that criteria is met, we'll tell the people that can opt out Friday, December 8th. For those that have to take the exam, Monday, December 11th, in class, is the final exam. Last semester, 80% of students opted out. I hope to have that record as well. And one last word about grading. I know I'm being very transparent with you because I want you to understand very clearly the grading policies of this class. Because I don't curve, you earn the grade that you get. I'm sure the reason why this class is somewhat oversubscribed is because very many of you are likely to get an A. You do the work, you accumulate the points, you'll get A's. 80 to 85% of you will likely get an A or B in this class. 10% of you will get a C or below in this class. This conversation is geared towards them, okay? And that's the point. You do the work, I don't need to test you on the final exam. You're gonna know this stuff, right? But there's gonna be a lot of work, and that's the point. You put in the effort, you're gonna learn a lot. It's gonna be a really cool class. It's gonna be the most real world class you've ever taken, and it will help prepare you for real world stuff. That's the bargain, but you gotta put the work in to do it. You don't put the work in, you're gonna struggle in this class. You're not gonna do well in this class, and this is not the class for you, okay? And that's the last time we're gonna talk about it. Now we're gonna go into it, unless there's any questions. All right, so back to Bloomberg. The first homework assignment, which is due next Wednesday, is the aberration. The cadence for homework assignments are usually given on Wednesday, due on Monday. But next Monday is Labor Day. We're not here. So homework 1 is going to be due next Wednesday. To do the homework, it's one of the easiest assignments ever. Basically on Wednesday, I'm going to ask you to take a screenshot. You're going to turn in the screenshot from Bloomberg. That's your assignment. You might say, why is he starting out with such an easy assignment? And the answer is, because it shows me that you've gotten a Bloomberg account and you've logged into the system, which is really critical. So it's a real easy assignment to basically say you got an account. So let's talk about how you use the account. The software is loaded on every one of these 32 terminals. You might want to follow along with what I'm about to do. This is how you get an account. Now you can actually go to Bloomberg.com and download this software and install it on your own computer, but you won't have a serial number attached to that computer. When it launches, the software is going to say, you don't have it, call this number. When you call this number, Bloomberg is going to ask you for $25,000. Okay? Now, unless you're like, the son or daughter of a billionaire who's just got money to blow, that's not me. The cost for you is free, but you got to use a terminal in this lab because every terminal has a unique serial number tied to these workstations. The software is this little icon, which you just click on the Bloomberg icon, and it will load it. When you load the software, it will look kind of like this. The first thing, which many of you it won't matter for, is it will ask which language you want to use. Now, I'm a native English speaker, so it defaults to English, but let's say that you are from Spain and you want to basically have everything in Spanish, choose Espanol, okay? So again, you can choose your native language if you're not a native English speaker, but it defaults to English, okay? Then you'll hit enter or go. Go is just another word for the enter key. And it will bring you to the login screen, all right? You will then type in your username, which currently you will not have, and a password, which you have not created. Down here at the bottom, there's a link that says create a new login. Click on that link. This is where you will create a login. As long as you're creating this login in this lab, it will allow you, because Bloomberg knows you did it in this lab, it will allow you to just have an account for free. If you try and create the login outside this lab, first of all, you won't be able to load the software to do it, and then it will ask you, do you actually have a paid account, okay? So, who you're creating this for? Myself. Have you ever been a user before? 98% of you will say no. Hit next. You'll then type in your name. Choose a unique login name, which is not your email address. Mine is jperfetti. Let's say you were Jay Perfetti, it might say then choose Jay Perfetti 1, but you'll need a unique name that's not an email address. Put in your cell phone. Any email address doesn't have to be umd.edu. Okay? When you hit next, you can skip the optional stuff down here. When you hit next, it's going to send you a code to either that email or that cell phone as a text message. You'll then type in that code, and then your account is created, and then it'll give you the ability to choose your own password. Once you've done that, you're in the software. Okay? So that the next time you go to a terminal, you'll type in that login name and that password to get into Bloomberg. That's it. Now, because we have too many people for the terminals and you're sharing, if you're created your account, you might want to let your buddy next to you create the account. You don't have to do this today, but you need to do this preferably by Wednesday. Yes, sir. You can use the same phone number or skip it. The one that matters is your mobile number. Because that's where, if you choose text message, which is what I would do, that's where they're going to try and send the text message to. Yes?
For email, we can use our school.
You can use any email you want. It doesn't have to be a UMD email because Bloomberg assumes that if you're creating an account in this lab, that you are a student. Okay, please don't abuse a privilege. Remember Fight Club. All right. Now, I'm going to log in, and you won't have this, but there are 2 users at the entire university that are allowed to use the software outside of this lab, at home. Sarah Cronke and myself. That's it. Everybody else is very upset about that, but I have 180 students a semester. I teach the entire class in Bloomberg. They've made an exception for me. Okay? Everybody else, PhD students, faculty, staff, students, have to be in a Bloomberg lab at a terminal to use this. So I have two-factor authentication, which basically says that I really am me when I'm outside the lab, so I don't share my password for outside access. You will have to use Bloomberg in a lab setting. Okay. Now, what I want to talk to you about next is the Bloomberg certification. You must become Bloomberg certified. Okay? This is something very real world. Right? To get to the Bloomberg certification, which is called Bloomberg Market Concepts, BMC, if you were logged into a terminal, you can type in to this, what's called the command line, top line, BCER, for Bloomberg certification. Click on Bloomberg certification or hit enter, and it will bring you to the certification screen. There are 2 certifications you can take through Bloomberg. One is Bloomberg Market Concepts, which is the terminal and the software that you use. The second one, which they just added this summer, is they now have a certification for ESG. If you want to take it, it's up to you. It's optional. It's there. It's real world. It's not required for this class. The one that's required for this class is Bloomberg Market Concepts. When you click on this, and this is what's important, after you finish your certification, you will get a PDF saying that you're Bloomberg certified. You can put this on your LinkedIn account. You can put this on your resume. All right? You can basically use this as a real world certification. All right? What I would also recommend is don't say that you're certified if you're not, because it doesn't take very long to figure that out. Okay? So, but nonetheless, this is a big leg up for you, as this is a real world certification that you'll get by taking this class. All right? Now, this is important, and I hope to be clear about this. There's 2 ways to take this certification. One is through the terminal, but the certification requires a completely separate account and a completely separate login. So whatever login you just created for the Bloomberg terminal will not work for the certification. You would have to create another account for the certification. Does that make sense? Second account. Now, that account is an email address. But unless you're Sisyphus, you do not want to take the certification through the terminal. You can, but you probably don't want to, for the reason I'm about to tell you. It's going to take you 6 to 8 hours to complete the certification. You'll probably do it in chunks over the next 3 weeks. You could start today. Option 2, which is the one I recommend, is you can do the certification online through any web browser, anywhere. You don't have to be in this lab to become certified. That's the one I'd recommend for everyone in this room. Take it online, okay? Now, the way that you do that is you go to a web browser, and I'll put an announcement with a link, but the link is called portal.bloombergforeducation.com. Portal.bloombergforeducation.com. Here, you will create a Bloomberg account for the certification, which is separate than the Bloomberg account for the actual terminal. Okay? Now, you can either create an account as a professor, which I have one, that's not you, or the learner, which is you. Okay? You will type in an email address. This must be a umd.edu email address. Everyone in this room has 2 minimum UMD addresses. Mine is perfetti@umd.edu. Mine is also perfetti@terpmail.umd.edu. Those are 2 separate email addresses. Whichever one you choose is the one that will become your account. The reason why it is important to use a umd.edu email address is because it will then select the institution, University of Maryland, click on it. If you log in with a umd.edu email address and create the account, the certification is free. If you use a non-UMD email address, the certification will cost $149. So it will let you log in, sign up, so I'm Perfetti at Gmail, and it'll say, type in a credit card to pay the $149. I don't want to pay $149 if I don't have to. So if I do perfetti@umd.edu, it'll be 0, and it will just allow me to do the certification. So very important, sign in with a UMD email account. Separate account than your terminal account. Terminal account, not an email address, doesn't care about the email. This one does. Okay, it's a privilege that Bloomberg has given to our university to grant this for free. So you're at Georgetown, you're a finance major, you're on one of the 2 terminals available to the entire school at Georgetown, and you're trying to become certified, they're paying $149. Okay, so take advantage of this. All right, once you create email, choose a password, put in your name, say you're not a robot, sign up. Once you log in, or you repeat log in, it will bring you to this screen. What's important when you're at the screen is up in the menu, it says certificates. This is the certification. Click on certificates. There are 2. BMC, Bloomberg Market Concepts, that's the important one. This is ESG if you want to do that one as well. Use the UMD account, they're both free. Back to Bloomberg Market Concepts. Mine says in progress because it will remember how much you've completed and let you continue on. When you click on BMC, it will show you the online modules that are part of the certification. Those are the online modules, e-learning courses. Here's the point. The ones with the blue badges are the actual ones that are required. There are 4 of them. Economic indicators, currency, fixed income, equities. To become Bloomberg certified, you must complete those 4. There are additional optional certification modules. They don't have a blue badge. You don't have to take them to become certified. It's completely up to you. However, there is one optional module I strongly recommend. It is called Terminal Basics. This software has a very steep learning curve and is very difficult to use. So Terminal Basics is like an intro tutorial to how to use this very difficult software. It's worth it. It's not part of the certification. It's part of the certification module. It's not mandatory, but I do recommend it. You must complete all 4 of those modules by Friday, September 15th. Okay? That will get you Bloomberg certified. in this class, I have an additional level of requirement beyond what Bloomberg does. When you finish a module, every module will have multiple choice questions, which you will take and will score you as you complete each module. You must get 70% or greater correct for every module to become certified in this class and to get the 5 points for your semester grade. If you turn in a certification where 3 of the 4 have 70% and 1 is less than 70%, you will get a 0 on the assignment and we will treat you as non-certified. What will happen is when you complete each module, next to every one of these blue badges will be a percentage score of how many percent you got right. So what you're going to turn in as your assignment is a screenshot of these 4 modules with those 4 scores. That's what we're going to use, not your PDF. Bloomberg will give you a PDF if you don't pass all the modules. I don't have that standard. You have to both pass all the modules with 70% or greater for this class. Okay? Now, 2 things that are important about this. Let's say I click on, I don't know, economic indicators. All right? 3 sections of economic indicators. I could start a section on monitoring GDP. All right? Basically, what it's going to do is it's going to play a video. After you finish the video, you're going to basically have a quiz. Actually, it's a couple videos and then a quiz, maybe a couple things to read. Then you basically have to take the quiz, get 70% or more right. It is very ticky-tack. I can tell you that I, who knows the terminal, have tried to take the quiz without watching the videos. I have failed every single time, okay? Because the quiz tests your knowledge of what's in the videos. They're going to say, in minute 3 of the video, we said these 3 things. What are these 3 things? And if you don't know those 3 things, they don't go let you watch the video again, and you won't get it right. You'll get a 1 out of 5 chance of getting it right. And you're going to get a bunch of questions like that. Here's why this matters. You can only take that test 1 time. If you take that test 1 time and fail it, you cannot take it over again. There are no exceptions. Bloomberg won't reset it. And you will not get the 5 points for this semester for the Bloomberg certification. So I cannot impress upon you how important it is to not just blow through the videos to the quizzes, not pay attention to what you're watching, because you will likely fail it. And that's the intention of Bloomberg. They want you to watch the videos. That's what's important to their certification. It's the way they've set it up. So that's what I'm saying. It's going to take you 6 to 8 hours to get through all these sections and take the quizzes with a high probability of failure. When you watch the videos, you're going to answer these questions pretty easily. But that's the way it's set up. Now, if you are that person who does this, and let's say you have 3 modules that you passed, but 1 module you screwed up and you failed, this is your option. You have to create a second account. Remember where I told you have 2 UMD emails? perfetti@umd.edu. I go back and I create a brand new account, perfetti@terpmail.umd.edu. It will let me take that 1 section 1 more time. When I turn in my assignment, I turn in a screenshot showing the 3 that I passed. I turn in the 1, you don't take the other 3 again, that I then had to make up, and then we'll consider you certified. If you fail it a second time, then you're SOL, okay? Because at that point, you have to create a 3rd account, and then you're paying $149. Or you got to beg somebody else to let them borrow their UMD email to create an account, right? And it gets real messy. So don't be that person. Become certified. But you could start this today. This is individual. Everyone will need to be certified. This will need to be turned in by Friday, September 15th. Questions? All right. Last but not least, got about 5 minutes left. I'm going to go back to the terminal. The Bloomberg terminal started in the 1980s. Michael Bloomberg in New York started with a terminal that looked like essentially a glorified calculator. And what happened is he started in fixed income. So all the bond firms, Solomon, et cetera, at the time, said, we need a clearinghouse for bond information and trading. And Bloomberg's like, I'll be that guy. So they all invested in him to become that initial clearinghouse. So their little calculator became a way to place trades, share information, calculate pricing, because they all agreed on a standard, because they're all going to have to do pricing the same way for bonds. And Bloomberg's like, I'll use the standard on your behalf and store all your data in a centralized, secure location and connect everybody. And oh, by the way, you can talk to each other and we'll record that, so that will be an actual approved by the government record of that trade. And it was so popular that the Wall Street firms expanded it to everything else. They started in bonds, they went to stocks, they went to currencies, commodities, yada, yada, yada. Today, two things have happened. Number one, they don't use the calculator terminals anymore. It's just software, okay? But second thing that happened is that there's a lot more information in here, because now it's a news, information platform, etc. Unfortunately, the legacy of the last 40 years is that that command line, keyboard-driven interface has survived it all. Because you got people on Wall Street that have been using the software for 30 years and they don't like change. So Bloomberg has had trouble bringing this interface into the modern era with people that have been using the software for 30 years since the 80s and 90s that don't want to change the way that they've been working. So a lot of it is driven by this top line. Bloomberg has 2, 3, and 4-digit screen codes that get you to 36,000 potential screens. So the way that you actually get to a screen, starting with that top line, security description is DES. 2 ways to get there. Type in DES, and it will bring you the description of the security. Or DES, select security description, and it will bring you the security description. There's an overview of what's going on with Merck. To get to a company, somebody give me a company, any company anywhere in the world, publicly traded. Who? Apple. Start typing in Apple. Middle of the screen, it'll start filtering out potential companies. Apple US Equity, AAPL US Equity. Okay? The format in Bloomberg is ticker symbol. US is the market. All right? If it was Germany, it'd be GY. And then equity is just that. It's the equity. Apple Corp is fixed income. We're not using Corp, which is debt. We're using equity. So I click on Apple US Equity. These are the equity screens. Okay? I can either click on a menu or click the 2 to 3 or 4-digit code to get to the menu. So for example, if I want to see historical financial statements for Apple, FA. There are Apple's historical financial statements. Subtab, income statement. There's their historical income statement. These are the ones adjusted by Wall Street. These are the GAAP statements. These are the as reported straight from their 10K. Several versions of Apple's income statements. What's nice, if I use the as reported or any of these, even the adjusted, Apple's revenue for 2022 was $394 billion. When I click on this, it will, and I can click on this image, it will actually show me where in the 10K they got that number from, and it will highlight that number in the 10K where it came from. So everything is a click down in Bloomberg back to the original data source. That's very important for Wall Street because they don't want to make mistakes when they cover companies. Okay? So that is just one screen that we will use called FA, which is historical results. A second screen that we'll use, I just told you about, is DES, security description. This is multi-tabs, but tells you all about the company, including a company research report, what's going on with their stock. Click on management as a drop-down. There's all of Apple's senior leaders, how long they've been working at the company. Click on each one of those, historical bios. Everything is a drill down. The screen that I showed you for earnings is EEO, Earnings Estimate Overview. Those are the future expectations called the Consensus Estimate Database, real time, that Wall Street's using to forecast Apple. Okay? So you can again see kind of wisdom of the crowd, what they think that they're going to do. Okay? So we'll cover a little bit more of this for some assignments as we go through the next couple of weeks, but that's what I'm saying. You're going to be using this terminal to get information. Another data source you'll go to every day, TOP, Top News. Every business news service and and regular news information is aggregated by Bloomberg for free in real time. So you don't need to subscribe to the Wall Street Journal. It's in here for free. It's part of the terminal. And the stories pop up in real time, plus historical searching. Okay? So again, you can get your information from this system as well. And again, we'll talk more about this on Wednesday. But this is what you'll learn a little bit more about in the certification module, the Bloomberg Basics. All right, I'll talk to you about some of this, but this is what you're gonna have to learn how to do. Make sense? All right, see everybody on Wednesday. Thanks for coming to the first class.